Shall we do a marker?
Yeah.
And then we can just
I've got
chat.
files recording, so
Okay,
let's do our terrible clapping. Are you ready for this?
Okay, here we go. Okay, 1, 2, 2.5.
Oh my god! I don't even know if we're doing it on 3 or after 3. Hang on.
2 and 3/4. 3. Clap.
You do this every time. I can hardly count to 3, let alone time it with bits and fractions.
You should be able to count to 3 now. So this is oh, right, I better do an introduction, mate. Let me get professional, okay? City of Kings, City of Kings, City of Kings.
Well, I don't need to do that anymore. That's perfect. Thank you.
You don't need to do that at all, no.
That could be your new
Okay, ready,
sponsorship. You could replace your intro with a theme tune of someone else's game. Just you singing it over and over.
Just me singing it. Exactly. Do you imagine that? The champion of the wild. It's made by Dr. Tom. He's really surprised. Shut up and sit down. Put his game in their news. Then did a podcast about it. And it rose through the funding, and it got funded in 24 hours. Now he's known as Dr. Smiley Tom. I want to see a montage. I want to see some kind of rocky montage when people fail at Kickstarters. I want to see somebody who's tried a Kickstarter before and it hasn't quite reached the funding to actually do a full funding montage. We better do an introduction.
Yep, sounds good. So, I'm Frank.
I'm Richard.
What's your name? You're Richard. Okay, you're Richard.
Yeah. This is We're Not Wizards. This is Frank coming back to take over because now he's got a successful Kickstarter. He won't even return my calls, unless he's coming on the show,
But the thing is,
it's like my best pal.
You've done so many of these episodes, but has anyone ever come on and actually interviewed you? So I went out to Twitter and I asked people for questions, and for the next hour.
No, you didn't. Because I would have saw it.
I was going to, but I forgot.
Were you actually? You were going to, but you're so unimportant. I forgot because I had Kickstarter stuff to do. How are you doing anyway? You tired?
Tired, yeah. Tired's a good word. I just got back from EGX last night, which I've been at since Wednesday morning, and that was a very, very long convention. Very long. You were demonstrating the game. I was, and it was just me and Sarah, and we had 2 tables, and it was 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. for 4 days, which was nearly double the entire length of UK Games Expo with just 1 extra day. I think it was about 2 hours from being double the amount of time.
Was it good? Did you get a ticket? Did you get any actual chance to actually see EGX?
Oh my god, I didn't get anywhere away from my stand. I mean, by Saturday I was I was considering wearing a nappy just because getting to the bathroom was so hard that it seemed like the best option. So
is that why you decided to get an office so high up some stairs?
We've not started recording yet, right? By the way,
yeah, we have.
Oh,
yeah, are you recording?
Yeah, no, I am, but I might just stop it. And,
No, don't stop just now. This is Frank. Frank, I'm ready to record. Frank says, right, just give me a second, I'm going to go and grab a drink. 10 minutes later, oh, I didn't realise that my drink was downstairs. I had to go down 10 flights of stairs to get my drink and then come back up again. It's like, where are you?
Those stairs, you've got no idea. The worst thing about this office, right, is as you go up, because we're in the attic, and as you go up, the stairs get narrower and narrower. And the last set of stairs are like a spiral staircase, and each step is on a different angle. And if you get it wrong, you go. That's it. When we moved in, we nearly fell down them so many times.
You need a banister or something like that. There's a
horrific.
potentiality you could actually die. This is all new offices, Frank.
Yep.
Businesses, Frank. Business premises, Frank. This is from a guy that is you're a full-time board game designer now, Frank.
Yeah, something like that. It's a bit weird, isn't it? It's
It's a bit weird.
It's all strange because I've had my own offices for a good few years, but my own offices have been kind of a shared room with another company, and we've had 50% of the room each. And it's always kind of been difficult because as I've kind of started doing the board game stuff, it's not really fitted in with that environment very much. So when you get playtesting and stuff, you know, we have to pack it away each night. We don't really have a designated kind of gaming area. And now we're in the new office. It's just so much better. It's, you know, we have a gaming table. We have pictures on the wall, which is like, pictures on the wall is unheard of in my world.
You got prints. Yeah. I've seen you've got, they're prints of your game.
Yeah,
Frank.
And that's great, you know. I can get to work and see what we've done and kind of feel like I'm in that world a bit more.
But, I mean, this is off the back of the City of Kings, which seems to have ignited into some kind of behemoth, which people, and it's still, there's still people talking about it, still people mentioning it, they're still kind of getting the word out. The comments, they still kind of seem to keep coming along, trickling a little bit nicely on the Kickstarter itself.
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, you obviously, you know, you run a Kickstarter and, you know, you hopefully succeed, and then, you know, you spend 6 months trying to fulfill that Kickstarter, or some people like 2 years or whatever, you know, but it's a long period of time, and you always just assume that period of time is just going to kind of dry up and kind of get slower and slower. But for us, really, it's just been non-stop. Strangely, I realized the other day that it's basically been 6 months since my Kickstarter, which just blew my mind. But even more strangely, since the Kickstarter ended and we launched our pre-orders, there was less than 10 days where we didn't get an order, which, like, how were people finding us every single day coming along? Like, we're not marketing, we're not advertising. We've just been to EGX, but, you know, I just don't know where these people are coming from.
Well, I've been up and down kind of London with a sandwich board, because I don't know. I had a kind of a bit of a set to with Peter Blankern, because he was also bragging to me about his fabulous offices, and then I went, right, okay, enough of your Subterra nonsense. I'm going to go and promote Frank. So I've been out and about with my sandwich board, saying, have you heard of the City of Kings? I'm Frank West. I was doing impressions of you and stuff like that as well. Hope you don't mind. So that's where they came in from.
And thank you very much. I appreciate that so much.
That's just totally not true at all. That's lies.
I wouldn't be surprised, because someone's got to be doing it. I mean, you know, obviously, like, I'm over the moon by it, but it's really taken me by surprise, and it's just like, it's such a surreal feeling. So we haven't spoken for a long time. I was looking, and I don't think we've spoken since like the middle of the campaign, which was kind of April time. And
yeah, I know.
So much has happened since then. But last month I was in Gen Con, and I guess I was in Gen Con, but I was at Gen Con, and I was walking through the airport, and someone kind of came up to me, and they just knew who I was, and they introduced themselves, and like, that was such a strange kind of feeling, you know. Just, I'm in America and people are coming up to me and they know who I am, and it's fantastic, you know. Like, it's an overwhelming feeling, and it's just so nice to know that people, even now, they're still thinking about the game, they're still interested, you know, they want to meet me, and I just, like, I feel so grateful that I've kind of got to this situation in my life.
But there's a trail, though. I mean, I was watching, as I say, I think, I watched the Rado walkthrough kind of again the other day. So that's still getting, you know, there's still people kind of watching that. They're still kind of getting visits and stuff like that. And you are, let's face it, you are the little Frank that could. Do you know, if you look at it that way, you kind of came in, you stormed off with a Kickstarter. There's been a kind of a lot of interest in it. So, you know, I mean, you're a professional game designer now, Mr. West, you know. I
know, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I didn't even know how to tie my shoes. And now I'm having to put ribbons around boxes to send to people. It's terrifying.
Is that what happened with EGX? Kind of Sarah said to you, right? I'm coming to EGX with you, right? But I'm not tying your shoes in front of everybody because we'll be too damn busy.
I tell you, not to get too sidetracked, but at EGX, Sarah was so incredible. You know, I mean, she's a lady who plays board games with me, and she went to the UK Games Expo and she did some demos, and the demos she did at the UK Games Expo were the first demos she ever did. But not only that, they were the first time she ever taught anyone a game. She had never done that before. You know, it didn't dawn on me until we were at the expo that she had never done that. And then when we went to EGX, it was just the two of us, and she was sat on a table for 8-9 hours a day doing 10-15 demos a day, and she never got tired. She was enthusiastic the whole time, and at the end of it, you know, people were coming to me and saying what a great job she was doing. And you know, for me, that was such an incredible feeling to kind of see her there, knowing I could just go off and leave her. You know, I could have a coffee, enjoy myself, and it was amazing. It was like, that's the moment. You know, she's trained, she can do it.
Are you still thinking somebody's going to run over and give you a shake and kind of wake you up, and you're going to go, oh! And you're going to be sitting in front of the screen, and there's going to be the flashing launch your project now kind of button? Did you get kind of that sense of unrealness sometimes?
I think for me, in all honesty, I would say no. And I don't mean that in kind of any kind of negative sense, but I think that I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking and planning, and I'm very much a realist. So I'm kind of very much in the mindset of, you know, I've done something big now. I've done something that's been amazing, but now that's step one on the ladder. And my concern now is, how do I do something so much bigger? You know, if I went from nothing to that, I now need to go from that to something even bigger and something even more exciting. And I'm spending so much of my time now just trying to deliver the promises that I kind of made to people, and just seeing how I can kind of grow myself, the business, the world, the game, our other games, and just kind of truly make this kind of big vision that I have in my head.
I mean, have you thought about, with the kind of the difficult second album, as somebody kind of would say, have you thought about kind of scaling it back a bit, doing something a bit simpler? Have you thought about maybe publishing somebody else's game? I mean, what's kind of been your thoughts for the kind of the second game?
So my kind of mindset was very kind of straightforward. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I had a few options. I could obviously do the obvious kind of expansions as my next thing. I could do another kind of fantasy adventure type game as the next thing. But both of those to me seemed too easy. And I don't mean that in kind of any disrespectful way, because again, you know, designing any game would be hard, but they seem like the easy choice. They seem like the choice where I could do them. They would probably kind of tick over and kind of do well. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something that's going to, again, make people look at it and go, that's something that's different. That's something that's interesting. So I spent a lot of time kind of finding this line between what's new and exciting, but what's also going to appeal to people who are already interested in the City of Kings. So I kind of sat down and basically just brainstormed for a long time, and I came up with this concept which I really, really liked. And then I basically kept refining it until I effectively created a new mechanic, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And it's a mechanic which I'm really proud of, and I've not talked about it publicly anyway yet. And unfortunately, I'm not going to do it tonight just yet. But for the sake of you, I'm going to call it Mechanic Blank, you know? And the blank
this is
mechanic.
Blankety blank.
Fill in a checkbook and pen, you might win.
Oh, my goodness sake.
But, you know, that mechanic is something which truly I'm very excited about. Like, I've started playing with it and I really enjoy it. And the early playtesters I've had come in have been really surprised by it. They found it really interesting. And I can actually see myself making several games kind of using this concept. And maybe other people will kind of come along and use it as well. But one of the things that's kind of exciting for me is, like, how do I do something that's different? And how do I kind of, you know, break out of these kind of trends. And that's what I'm kind of hoping to do. So I guess to answer your question, I set myself the goal of create something that no one's ever done before and make it interesting. Which, is a nice, easy challenge.
And then, so that was Tuesday evening. So did you have any of them plans for Wednesday?
Yeah, not to sleep.
I mean, is it kind of, is it kind of daunting to kind of make something that is going to be, do you think, there, as well as the success of the City of Kings, is there now that, there was the success of the City of Kings? Do you feel you've kind of pushed yourself, or you're putting more pressure on yourself to push yourself further than what you did with the City of Kings?
I do, but I think that's kind of a good thing, because I think that spurs kind of innovation and kind of progression and growth. As I say, I really feel like if I'd done another fantasy adventure, or if I'd done like an expansion as the next thing, that I would be trying to take the easy money. I've got an audience who are interested in those kinds of games. And if I can do a good job of it, then, I would be hopeful that a good chunk of those people would go, hey, yeah, another one of these from Frank, like, I'm interested. But what I wanted to do was say, you know what, I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to try something interesting. And I know that not everyone who backed the City of Kings will be interested in Rising Blades, but I also know new people will be interested in it. And for me, like, that, how do I do something new and interesting, even though it's more scary, has a much better reward for me personally, and hopefully for the other people, than if I just kind of take the easy route.
Are you still going to, because when we spoke back at the time about City of Kings, you did explain there was other games that you wanted to do within that kind of world. Is that still the case? Are you going to go back to City of Kings and produce more games? Or is Rising Blades the kind of, let's do this now, let's show what other things I'm capable of, and then go back to City of Kings afterwards?
So Rising Blades is still set in the City of Kings universe. So it's still within that world. It's just a very different game. And they're very, very kind of independent. So for those who don't know, the City of Kings, it's a fantasy adventure whilst you're exploring this world. And at the start of the game, the whole world's kind of just been destroyed. The bad guys have kind of conquered everything, and it's the final battle. You're kind of stood at the last surviving city, and you've got to fight out and see what you can do to survive. And you're playing those kind of surviving heroes. So it's a fully cooperative game in that kind of destroyed world. Whilst Rising Blades, this takes place about 5 years prior to that. So it's actually a prequel. And the difference is in Rising Blades is it's a fully competitive game, and it's an asymmetric game. So each player, because, asymmetric games are simple, aren't they? So I decided to let's do 4 different games, all kind of intertwined with each other.
I'm just in the middle of finishing the rules for this asymmetrical game I've been designing while we've been talking for the last 18 minutes.
It only takes about 5 minutes, doesn't it, apparently?
I just don't see why there isn't more kind of asymmetrical games. I was looking at Ash's Rise of the Phoenixborn, and I produced my own deck in an afternoon with some crayons and some scissors, which was equally kind of nice. You're not going to sit still though, are you? I mean, this is going to be, you're going to start off with these mechanic blank for Rising Blade, and you're going to just push out as far as you can get. Are you looking at a medium-sized kind of box game, or are you thinking potentially big box? Are you thinking, shall we say, the M word, miniatures? Is it going to be that type of game, or is it going to be competitive, face-on-face kind of card game type territory? Or are you not allowed to tell me?
No, that kind of stuff's absolutely fine. So it's kind of, for me, it's difficult to kind of balance the idea of kind of medium and large, because obviously City of Kings you could say was large, but you could also say it was massive, and you could also say it was like bigger than that. So it's kind of hard to put it into scale. But I guess the Rising Blades is more of a kind of standard box size. So we're talking, Ticket to Ride's box size, Terraforming Mars box size. It's that kind of typical kind of square kind of box.
Yeah.
And it's a full box, but it's not a kind of 6 kilo kind of crate that's going to turn up on the back of a tank. And it's, miniatures are not going to be a part of this game at this time. There's something which again is kind of in the works for kind of a later kind of purpose. But you know me, I'm like, let's just do something beautiful. Let's do something that's amazing and different and interesting. Let's do something that's as cheap as it can possibly be, but it gives you that immersive experience. So I want to keep going down that path of let's make thinky kind of Euro-like kind of games, but let's make them full of flavour. Let's have story. Let's have theme. Let's have adventure. Let's make it a game where it's not just a case of who can take over what place. It's a case of why are we doing this? What's happening? I've done this. What's the impact of that in the world? And kind of to tell this story.
You sound like you want to tell me, but you're really trying to hold back and not kind of tell me kind of thing. You're kind of like, it's just this, isn't it? This is what it is kind of thing. Are you playtesting with Rising Blades? Have you mentioned that already? I mean, how longer do we have to wait until we get something more concrete? And I'm trying to nail you like a wall, like a jelly or something like that.
It's fine. I've still got a few more bits I'm happy to tell you, so that's absolutely fine. I think playtesting with Rising Blades is an interesting term, because when I started the City of Kings, I worked on the City of Kings, like the original game, for about 2.5 years, and it probably was 6 months before I got people to start playing it outside of me and Sarah, because, you know, that was the first game and I wanted it to be right. And with Rising Blades, I rang someone up and asked them if they wanted to come over, and I kind of made the first prototype that day. And I basically started playtesting it about 4 hours after I came up with the idea. So it's a very different kind of experience, you know, and the game's been growing, but I'm literally playtesting it kind of every single day with different groups of people. And it's really coming together super quickly. And it's kind of scaring me how quickly it's coming together. And I'm taking it to people who are real critics of games. You know, the typical people who will tell you there's been no good game for the last 5 years. You know, board games are dying, and people who just hate everything. And I'm getting good responses from them, and that kind of scares me, because I want to kind of keep refining this and pushing it. And I'm actually finding that I'm already getting to a point where there's not so much kind of negative feedback coming back. And that's probably about 3 months earlier than I was expecting. So at the moment, my kind of goal is to kind of really upgrade the artwork and the graphics, and then actually kind of start traveling around and doing a lot more kind of open play testing.
I take it with the freedom, a little bit of freedom that the City of Kings given you, has it meant that things that you would have had to sacrifice in the past, because the City of Kings, you said you were developing that for about kind of 2 years, was that obviously having to make sure that you were looking after yourself at kind of the same time? So that's essentially City of Kings has allowed you to kind of develop more board games, but under your own terms, as opposed to what was kind of available to you resource-wise at the time?
Yeah, completely. And like, obviously time wise, I did that standard thing where for 2 years I was working like 8 to 9 hours a day on my job. And then I was working 6-7 hours a day on the City of Kings, and then sleeping for a few hours. And I said to myself, great, I can get rid of the other job and I can work on the new game for 8 or 9 hours a day and then actually have my evenings. But it turns out that I'm just kind of spending 15 or 16 hours a day on the game. And I'm just like, this is great. Everything's happening super quick. But obviously, like, 6 months has gone by and I don't know what colour my hair is, but it's certainly a bit different to what it was last year.
Are your roots showing, love?
Honestly, I was in a shop the other day trying on some clothes, and I was horrified by the back of my head. Like, I have lost so much hair that it's kind of, I don't know, I've got to make a decision between kind of shave it off, buy a wig, get a marker or a hat or something, but never. I might just start wearing stilts. I mean,
so people can't see you unless of course they're passing you by on a bus. So what to do is get stilts, a top hat, and a curly moustache, I think, to finish the whole look off. I think is going to be the way to work this, if I'm being perfectly kind of honest. Are you going Prince William kind of hair? Is that the way it's kind of going?
Pretty much.
Yeah, but anybody kind of goes past you and says you're losing your hair, and you go, well, did you have a successful board game on Kickstarter? Well, you didn't, did you? So I did. So go on.
And that's the great thing, isn't it? I mean, if, like, when the game turns up, no one buys any, I can just wear the empty boxes on my head, and I'm sorted.
You can change the boxes as well, or either that, you could arrange for different art print hats from the City
Be a
of
stretch
Kings.
goal for Rising Blades.
Rising Blades, yeah,
a
Rising.
hat-shaped box.
That's and you could even call it a hat box or a box hat.
Amazing.
It's just that I'm surprised you're not writing this down. To be perfectly honest,
I've moved into digital form. I type things now, but I'm well there.
I type things now. I don't know. You're sounding determined, but decidedly more relaxed, I guess. It's like you've proven your point, kind of thing. You've still got the fire, you've still got the energy, there's still the kind of the excitement. There was, I think, when we last spoke, which was the middle of the Kickstarter campaign, there was the nervous kind of excitement. It's like, oh my goodness, this is doing really well. I have no idea what's going on. Oh my goodness. But now there's the kind of, listen, mate, this is me now. This is me in me kind of happy place. I'm doing my game. I'm getting up. I'm getting up when I want to. I go and work on the game. I get myself playtesting. It's taking its own sweet time. I'm letting the game kind of naturally ferment and develop as it kind of comes along, kind of thing.
It is, and it's kind of, this is 30 years of lifetime kind of suddenly getting to that dream point, It's kind of, you grow up going, I'd love to do this, I want to do that, oh, can I please do this? And I'm there now. So, I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it. For the first time in my life, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm basically skipping to work. And I say that, there was actually a time about 5 years ago where I challenged myself to skip to work, and it was 2.5 miles. So I guess it's the second time in my life where I skipped to work.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be like that episode of Friends when Phoebe jogs with her arms flailing around beside her.
Pretty much that.
I can just imagine people seeing you just like, who is that man? That's Frank West. He does look happy.
I think it's also it's worth knowing that I'm one of these people who I will put myself in the worst situation to see how I survive. So I like to challenge myself with life, and I find that kind of interesting. I hate playing it safe, and I really, really want to push myself. And I'll kind of go on to a story in a minute for you, which you might find interesting. But first, another story. Look at that, 2 stories lined up.
Double Frank, so, we can't resist it. Bring it on.
Once upon a time.
Okay.
So I used to work in the web industry, kind of coding websites. And I said to myself, I want to get into UX, which is user experience. I want to start kind of doing that as my job. So literally, having never done kind of UX professionally, I said to myself, I'm going to arrange to do a talk at a convention in front of 100 UX professionals next month. And by next month, I need to know enough where I can stand on a stage for an hour and introduce them to something and excite them. And I just did that because I wanted to kind of challenge myself. And at the end of that talk, someone came up to me and they were like, that was really interesting. I learned blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I did it, And I was like, I learned this last week. It's great stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
You're a blagger.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. It's about that challenge. So
you better watch out. The Kickstarter comments are going to be, I just heard Frank and we're not wizards, and he says pretty much he's made up all this stuff so far. I'd like a refund, please.
If you actually read the terminology I use on the Kickstarter page, where it says the estimated weight is 6 kilos, that's 6 kilos for all of the games combined.
Exactly.
The game is actually, when you get little cards and you want big cards, my cards are actually about 4 millimeters by 6 millimeters. It's just scaled down. It comes in a matchbox.
You've actually you spelt weight. You spelt weight as well. WAIT.
And kg means thousands of years.
Exactly. Thank you for your money, Kickstarter people, but there's no laws to say that you're going to get it back. We better
Do you
watch
think
this,
you could ever, like, literally put one on there and it be Matchbox size and just kind of make people think that it's a full-size game? Just shrink it all the way down. It's like, it comes with a magnifying glass for each player.
Just like say, this is, I've actually got really big thumbs. You just got like a picture of your thumb right next to this kind of really, really small box. That would be so cool. You could do City of Kings tiny version. In fact, you could do a series of games which are tiny but absolutely useless games that look fantastic, but you could never actually play because you'd end up kind of crushing them. And there's a thing to do.
The City of Kings, an ant's perspective. Adventure up the first step and get to the city.
It's kind of like the Hamlet of Kings.
Yes.
The village of Kings. King Street.
But, you know, like, this is the thing, you know, I think one of the reasons I'm in a very good mood tonight is because of EGX. So, for 2.5 years, I've said to myself, I am designing a game that's for board gamers and for video gamers. And obviously I've play tested it with both groups. But the majority of the time, as you can imagine, has been with board gamers. There's been every event I've been to has been a board gamer event. Yeah. Every night I've had has been a board gamer night. Excuse me. And EGX is a 75,000 person video game event. And the board game scene there is basically non-existent. Like, it's a new kind of growing thing. Yeah. And, I mean, to give you an idea of how un-board game friendly it is, on the first day they switched off all the lights. And they were like, oh, do you need lights? And I had to go and get them to switch lights on. And for the first 2 hours on the first day, if you sat at the table, you couldn't read any of the stuff on the table. So it was that unboard gamery. And I mean, it was a good event, but you know, for me, I stood in a room of video gamers and they loved it, and we were non-stop busy, and every single person who sat down and played was like, I get it, I love it, it's just like, you know, World of Warcraft, it's just like Final Fantasy, it's just like this, and I understand it. And they were excited by it, and they went off saying, I never knew board games were like this. And for me, that was like, you know, that was the final thing. That was the much more value than all the kind of the money from the Kickstarter. That was the people saying, you know, that thing that you set out to do, you've achieved that now. And that was such a great feeling.
So, oh, that sounds like noise in the background. Unless that was me.
I think it was you, but I'm not
definitely
sure.
Not me. No, that's definitely not me. Oh my goodness, what are you accusing me of now? Did you then were people able to pre-order at the time at EGX then? Were people able to go on and kind of pick up or pre-order?
Yeah, so we closed the pre-orders online, and we did kind of pre-orders at the convention and said that this was kind of the last opportunity. And we got a lot of pre-orders. We got pre-orders every day. We got lots of people coming up and pre-ordering, and it was really cool. It was like, it was so unexpected. Like, I didn't go there to get pre-orders. I went there because, again, I wanted to challenge myself. You know, can I stand in front of those people and get them to want to play this game? And to get the orders on top of that was really surprising, to a point where we actually, after the first day, I had to go and work out how to get internet access, because we didn't really work out a way to take payments, because we never assumed we were going to get any. Yeah. And then we were getting payments and we were having to like stand outside to take them. So we managed to kind of wangle some internet for the last 3 days.
It's kind of like, I would like to buy your game. If you can just follow me outside.
If you could step into the meeting room 4 meters around this corner.
Exactly. This is isn't this outside? It's kind of outside, but it's the virtual reality outside. It's the payment gateway that we use. Oh, where are we? No, you're actually standing in the payment gateway. Oh, that's very cool, isn't it? This is real. I don't even have a virtual reality headset kind of on. This is kind of amazing.
You know, when I said to you that I made a board game like a video game, well, yeah. I made a payment system like a credit card when we walk to the bank.
Exactly.
It's down the next street, round the corner, past Burger King, and on the left.
How does that work then? Well, you if you put your card into the payment machine, and then if you press this money, and then you come it back, and you'll get some tokens that are in the shape of foldable bits of paper. If you bring them back to me, then that will sort stuff out. Wow, this is just mega. Did you? I mean, the people that you spoke to, were they kind of like? Were they already into the board games, or did you have people kind of coming up and going, "Oh, what's this fancy Monopoly?" Eh?
I would say that about 80% of them weren't board gamers. The vast majority of them were video gamers. To a point where I kind of wanted to have like a cloth over the table and then just a piece of glass, and be like, look in that, it's like a video game. Look, you see this little bit, and then trying to move the sheet of glass around, because this was the thing. So many of them said, I could hear the comments saying like, oh my God, this looks so complicated. And I would just jump on them and I'd be like, but if you saw the whole world of a video game right at the start, it would look just as complicated. And we've designed this in that same way, where you gradually get introduced to it. And like in a video game, you don't need to worry about the end boss at the start. This works the same way. And as soon as I said that, they'd all be like, oh, well, that makes sense. And they'd kind of be willing to kind of go through that pitch. They'd play the demo and they'd walk away smiling.
With the stats that we talked about in the previous episode before, did anybody actually drop the Dark Souls comparison in there at all? Did anybody say, oh, this has got stats like Dark Souls? Or were you kind of blissfully kind of free of that?
No,
kind of comparison?
Not really. I don't think, not from this weekend, no one's really mentioned that at all, so...
Well, that was an absolute failure of a question, there, wasn't it? With you being able to spend more time playing games, are you getting more games to the table? I mean, one of the things that we spoke about previously was your beautiful, wonderful, fantastic, amazing Kickstarter habit. Which is
and my unopened box pile.
Exactly.
I have prepared for this question for you.
Oh,
are you ready for this?
Yeah, I am.
I'm going to blow your mind.
Well, actually, I'm going to have a go at you first of all, because you scamp, sent me when you were at Gen Con. Oh, here's a list of all the games I've played. And you actually enraged me so much, I think you got mentioned on the episode that Matt Jarvis was on, because you sent me over a look at all these lovely games that I played. So go on then.
You ready for this?
Absolutely.
Since we last spoke on April the 7th, I have played 96 different games, not including any prototypes. And of those, I have done 150 plays.
That's ridiculous. That's not true.
Do you want me to list them off for you? You ready for it?
Call yourself a board gamer. You've played 96 games.
Yep. And I would say 75%, well, probably 75 of them. That would be about 75%, wouldn't it? A give or take one.
Once again, Frank West winning it with the maths.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. 19 of those games I've played more than once. So yeah, there's kind of a good list there. I've got a spreadsheet in front of me. You better watch. Give me a letter, I'll give you a game.
You've done D.
D. Okay, let's go for D. The Daedalus Sentence, Dice Forge.
Yeah.
That's 2 Ds.
Talk to me about Dice Forge, is it good?
It's rubbish, don't buy it.
Can't believe it.
I should disclaim this by the fact that I think I've already made you buy it, haven't I?
It's just scum. Yeah.
No, I do like Dice Forge. It's a good game.
Well, that's good.
Really
I don't
good
believe you. You're just blagging it. You've been told. I'm going to challenge myself to persuade people to buy a game, and then
I did that about 6 months ago.
Make them regret their decision.
Oh no, not that bit. Yeah.
People are going to get really shocked when the City of Kings turns up in like a jiffy bag. So Dice Forge is good. Okay, let's pick another, because this is a fun game.
M. M is for Magic Maze, Mars 445, Meeple Circus, Millennium Blades, Monster Misfits, Mountains of Madness, and Mysterium. So
Millennium Blades, what do you think of it? Because that is level 99, isn't it?
I think the problem with Millennium Blades is that we were doing a kind of 14-hour gaming day, and it was the last game of the day, and I kind of convinced everyone that it'd be a lot of fun to make all the batches of money together as a group, which kind of took about an hour and a half. And by the end of the hour and a half, I would say that at least one of the people at the table was in a slightly bad mood with me. And by the time we got to the game, they weren't like their normal jolly selves. But now all my money's been done, and I didn't have to do it all myself, so I kind of won. With that, I didn't win the game, but I won the night.
Did you get an air punch and went winning at life? Winning, he's not winning. It was good fun.
I did enjoy it. I do want to play it again when we've kind of had a slightly more kind of non-stressful hour beforehand. But it was good fun. It's very different, and I wouldn't say it was like my favourite game ever, but I love the kind of uniqueness of the concept behind it.
Oh, here we go. Right, okay. Of the 96 games that you played, was there any ones that surprised you that were a bit of a disappointment?
Ooh, there's a couple, but I don't know if I can say that out loud. I might get crucified. Let me have a look through the list.
It doesn't have to be kind of like you didn't like it. It just has to be a case of, I would have maybe played it. And you can obviously omit any games.
Oh, that don't worry. I'm more than happy to badmouth them. I'm just looking for them on the list. Just keep with me.
Have you got a graph as well of the games that you ordered, you liked them as well? Oh my goodness.
I actually could have exported my ratings for them, but I didn't do that. I kept it simple. I would say Cry Havoc was a game that I didn't particularly enjoy, and I know that gets quite a lot of kind of positivity.
Yeah.
We played it 2-player, and I think that we both had the same feeling at the end, which was like, what did we kind of do wrong? Because we kind of felt like we played the game, but we didn't kind of feel like we were like enjoying the play, if that makes sense. We kind of felt like we were just doing mechanics, and I don't know if it was just because we were not really getting something, or whether it was the fact that it was just the 2-player mode of it. I don't know, but we kind of got to the end of it and we both kind of said, I want to play that again to kind of see what went wrong, but I would rather play something else before I play it again. So I don't know, like, that was not a great experience for us.
I've heard different things. I've heard people talk about if you're playing the 4-player game and you bring in the trogs, unless everybody else takes on the trogs become too easily taking over the map just because of the numbers that they have.
Okay.
So I've heard that about it. I still am very interested in playing it because it looks interesting. So we'll see. There's always I've heard people rave about it. It's another one of these, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that kind of game anyway, normally. But I played that one specifically because people were kind of, raving about it a bit, and I just wanted to kind of give it a try. I would say on the other kind of spectrum, the game that's really kind of surprised me the most that I've enjoyed was Bunny Kingdom. I've totally fallen in love with Bunny Kingdom. Like, it doesn't make sense in my head. I saw people talking about it before Gen Con, and I was like, that just looks stupid. Like, I'm going nowhere near that. It's a little pink bunny on a map. And
I'm gonna have to Google this. Keep talking. But what was good about it? What made you kind of go, ooh, this is amazing?
The thing was, I was walking along Gen Con, and I walked past it so many times, and I just didn't. I kind of ran past it, I just I didn't want to look. And then I was walking past, and there's 3 guys sitting down, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to join us?" And I was like, "No, yeah, okay," And I sat down, and I loved it. And I think that it was just it's a very, very simple game. Like, you can explain it in 5 minutes, and it's very, very straightforward. and it doesn't take very long to play. In that, I've played it now kind of in 45 minutes, and with 2 people I've played it in like half an hour. But there's a real element of depth, and I feel like you kind of create your own complexity in that game. Like, there's very different routes that you can take, and some of those routes don't make you do better, but they make the game so much more kind of complex in terms of decision making. So what I love about it is you can play with people who just want a light, friendly game, but you can then kind of ramp up the complexity for yourself, and you're kind of competing on an even level. And I just personally, I really enjoy that. I like the fact that you make your own challenge in the game.
And that's is it Yellow that make that? It's Richard. It's Richard Garfield, isn't it?
We'll go with yes. Hang on, in my handy spreadsheet, all of the game names are clickable links. So we'll have a quick look, and here it comes up, and it is designer Richard Garfield. See, I'm ready for you.
There
Any
you go.
questions?
I'm just, I was expecting I was going to catch you out, and it turns out I was completely wrong. Was there anything else that you kind of liked? You kind of liked?
Over the last 6 months, I guess there's been a couple of things. One game I feel like I should talk about, just because it's something that I've been playing a lot and been involved with a lot, and I don't know how much you know about this, but the story begins that there was a convention called AirCon, and I guess this was, 6 months ago now? It was before my Kickstarter, so probably 7 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And I went to AirCon, and I was chatting to this guy there, and he's someone I've chatted to on Twitter, and he was there with his game, and it's called Defection. I don't know if you're familiar with Defection or not.
No, I'm not, but...
So I was chatting with him, and it turned out that we kind of lived 5 minutes away from each other. And he was from Bristol, and we met 6 hours away from here.
Oh my goodness.
And he was just this guy who quit his job to design a board game. And he's living off his savings, designing this board game full time. And I said to him, if you want to start coming into my office and having a place to work from for a few days a week, you can do. So basically, since my Kickstarter finished, he's been in my office every day. And since we moved into the new office, he's now got a permanent desk here. And he's working on this game. And when I first played it 6 months ago, it was an okay game. It was fun. It was a bit different. There were bits in it which kind of felt a bit off. But actually now that it's been refined so much, I'm really enjoying it. And I guess I've probably played it about 20 or 30 times now in the last few months. So I've played it a lot, and it's a fun little game. So, not to plug him too much, because obviously, I'm biased. A lot of my ideas have gone into this game as well, and he kind of sits with me. But, it's really worth checking out, and he's going to launch a Kickstarter next year. So, it's called Defection, and it's on Board Game Geek. He's on Twitter, so it's worth a look.
What's his name?
He's called James Tomblin.
Okay. So you'll need to ping us over the links, his Twitter stuff.
Yeah, I'll send you the links as well, and you can put them up somewhere, and maybe in the description.
But... Yeah, maybe we could even... I know! I could see if we could get him on a show somewhere.
Oh, he doesn't like talking to people, He
doesn't like talking. He won't like talking to me, will he? Let's face it.
I will suggest it to him, because he's one of these people, who's doing that typical thing where he's spending a lot of time working on the game, but he's not built as much presence. And he's now been at the Games Expo. He went to EGX. He was at AirCon. So he's certainly been to a few conventions now. The game's getting better and better, and it's getting closer and closer to being ready to go live. So yeah, no, I'll chat to him and see if he can come on. Yeah,
James, don't listen to Frank. Frank, Frank and me got a history. It's to do with £10 that he owes me back in 1984 or something like that. Don't listen to him.
Hey, I'm not as old
that
as you.
bad. Thank
1994.
you. I can act. Oh my goodness! No, don't tell me that. I'm actually old enough to be your dad.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? This is one of the worst things that's happened to me, right? I'm going to go on a rant now. This is totally irrelevant to anything. But at EGX, my niece came up to me and my niece is 2.5 years younger than me, okay? And she kept telling everyone I was her uncle, which just made me look so old, because here she is in her mid-20s, and I'm not old enough to be like the uncle of someone in their mid-20s, but everyone, you know, she works for The Guardian, and she introduced me to her boss, and she was like, hey, this is my uncle. And I was like, I'm young. Please, like, stop it. And then on Twitter, there's a selfie. This is me with my uncle. And it's like, I'm going bald and grey. Like, it hurts enough. Like, I woke up last week and I saw that I'd lost all my hair. It's going grey. And now someone's telling the world that I'm their uncle. And they're, like, in their mid-20s. And it's like, what's happened? Like, I just want to design games. I don't want to be someone's uncle.
Do you feel better?
I do.
Do you play it all out?
So should we start recording now? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're better, eh? Are you going to help with the publishing side of games then? Is that something that you have considered? I mean, let's face it, at some point, the, City of Kings is going to go out. Rise and Blade is going to be the next one. Are you going to branch out into what other people are doing in a career? Are you going to do a bit of consultancy? Are you going to help kind of publishing games? I mean, you've done the design thing, you've done the self-publishing thing through Kickstarter for City of Kings. Are you going to try and put your tendrils out into different bits of the industry now that you've got the ability to do that?
Yes and no. Like, I'm helpful. There you go. I'm helpful.
Just you heard it here first.
Internet, you'll find me. I'm helpful.
He's like the Windows paperclip of the board game world. Oh, I can
see version 2. Ask Frank.
I can see that you're trying to do a worker placement game. Would you like help with
get
that?
Some wooden cubes. Do you have wooden cubes? Great.
No.
Step 2. Make sure they are colourblind friendly. Step 3.
Chuck it out and buy City of Kings. Because
it's full of wooden cubes.
It's all the wooden cubes you need. It's almost like you could say City of Kings is like a game development kit.
I tell you, there's some little funny things out there that you get with all of this, because one of the things we did was we offered all of the individual kind of upgrades from all of the extra tiers in our game as kind of extra add-ons. So if you bought the Adventure Edition, you could buy any pack of anything and kind of upgrade. And I've done this because as we kind of release the game and more stuff over the years to come, I want people to be able to add on to it. So one of the things we did was the wooden resource tokens. So we've got bags and bags of wooden resource tokens. And I actually worked out the other day that I have like 8,000 wooden fish coming to me in a box. And, like, I'm just going to have to design a game about wooden fish or something, because there's going to be crates of them just sat in the corner waiting for someone to come along and say, hey, I'd like 10 of those.
Fish market.
That's it, sorted. Fishing game.
Fish commodity trading game. You have different types of fish.
Oh, we've only got one type of fish, though. You've already lost it.
Well, you can have them on different parts of the board, depending on where you put them on the board. That's where the value is, and what happens is you get 3 different rounds, and depending what time of year it is, the fish get extra bonuses depending on where they are. So you've got to decide, if you leave a fish in a certain place, it'll eventually move up a track, so it gains more money because it becomes more rarer in the season as the number of fish available kind of decline. Whereas all the other things, you can go for the cheap, quick things, which are allowed to put more fish and thus trade in more fish on a particular day. Fish market, done.
Done. There you go. Board Gazette. Oh my goodness. I can't talk anymore.
Hello, my name's Frank, and I'm very tired.
This is what a convention does to someone, I tell you. So yeah, I've been like helping James a lot and kind of talking with him about his game.
It's good recovery.
A lot of advice on that, and yeah, I'm going with it. I'm back to the question. And one thing that I'm doing now that I've got the office is I'm going to be doing a lot of videos. So I've started recording a video series which I'm going to be putting on YouTube, and that's very much going to be me kind of just giving small kind of bits of advice and lessons that I've learned and trying to help other creators. So I'm going to be starting that in the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks. It might be a bit sooner, but I'm going to kind of tie it in with some stuff we're doing for Essen. And that's going to be like a regular kind of, weekly, let's give some advice and kind of help people in general. If people want to come along and they want to ask me stuff, I'm always happy to answer it. If people want like professional paid help and advice for stuff, then, I'm interested in doing that. But for me, the focus of my time is going to be designing my own games and kind of progressing those.
And that's as well, considering what you did with City of Kings, I don't think, anybody can say that is not a particularly worthwhile thing for you to do. I think you should just crack on, son.
Well, I've spent 5 years doing consultancy for other industries, and, I won't lie, I got paid very well for that consultancy work. But, the board game industry and the kind of board game design and the publishing is just so much more rewarding. So something which, I haven't really talked about a lot kind of online, and something which, I'll give you this one just for you and your podcast for now.
Thank you.
When I was launching my Kickstarter, I had to make a decision, and that decision was very black and white for me. It was either I don't launch my Kickstarter because I can't do it the way I want to do it, or I quit my job and I have zero income, and if my Kickstarter fails and doesn't succeed well, then I'm going back to my parents and I'm going to be homeless and lose everything I have. And that was the gamble I put on my Kickstarter. I went home one night and I sat down with Sarah and I said to her, I want to put everything I've got into this, and I want this to be, I don't want to look back at this in 6 months' time or in 10 years' time and say, I didn't do everything I could to make this happen. So I literally got rid of everything I had. I got rid of any sort of income. All the money I had went into getting that Kickstarter to the place it was going to be. And I literally was on the line of having to leave my home and going back to my mum's. And for me, my mum lives in the middle of nowhere. So, that's leaving the city. That's kind of resetting my whole life. And that was the kind of gamble I put on the line for this. And now, this has happened, I remember that risk I took. And I don't ever recommend anyone does that. But for me, I literally was that guy who said, I'm giving it everything. I'm going to kind of gamble my house. I'm going to gamble everything I've got. And I was lucky that it worked out. But equally, I know that I never would have been able to kind of be as responsive in the community and kind of as active as I was if I hadn't have done that.
Yeah. That's, I don't think we can add to that. I mean, that's something that you did, and it's really, really paid off. And it's good to see you kind of doing so well, and it's kind of good to speak to you again as well. Because I'm conscious of the time, for people that are listening, whenever they're going to be listening, and thank you so much for listening, if they want to keep an eye on what you're up to and what you're doing and where you are, what's the best place to find you, Frank?
Ooh, that's always difficult, isn't it? You always ask the tough questions. So if you want to chat with me and you want to ask questions, then you can tweet at me on Twitter, TCOKGame. Mm-hmm. You can find me on YouTube, which is obviously YouTube/TCOKGame. One of the things I really recommend is people kind of get hold of me on Board Game Geek. So both the City of Kings and Rising Blades game forums, I'm very, very active in. So if you want to ask questions about the games or kind of know anything about those, then you can go to the Board Game Geek pages. Or you can find our website, thecityofkings.com. You can go to our Facebook page, which is TCOK Game. Or you can just go to Google and type in my name, and you'll probably find another 20 social networks where I'm more than welcome to say hello. And if none of that's enough for you, then you could follow Richard on Twitter. And, then ask him just to pass on a message, because he's actually doing that kind of receptionist work for me now. It's a bit of a kind of... It's a discussion that we're about to have once the call ends, and I'm really appreciative. And you heard it here. I mean, you're agreeing to it, aren't you, Rich? So, we're done with that.
Yes, if I do that, can I get my family back? Yes,
I
of
might
course.
give you some wooden fish.
I would love. Can I get at least 7, because that's the minimum you need for a good game of Fish Market. Ah,
But you're paying for shipping.
Well, that's fine. You know, I'll. Yeah, you can ship. You can ship it with. I don't know. I will send you a stamped addressed envelope. I just need you to tell me your address right now, Frank. Listen, as always, it's just things just for some reason go off in tangents and then end up in bits of marvellousness with you.
I was going to tell you so much about Rising Blades, but you just didn't give me a chance. So,
you said you could not talk about Rising, so this means that you're going to have to come back when you do stuff about Rising Blades, but you are going to have to come back about Rising Blades, because at the moment the person with the most episodes is Peter Blanken, and now he's got an office and you've got an office, and he's got a successful Kickstarter and you've got a successful Kickstarter. In fact, he's got 2 successful Kickstarters, so you better catch up.
He's also got hair. Do you want to throw that at me as well?
He's got an amazing beard. Did you see the video of him in his warehouse? Did you see the guy just, there's one bit, a guy just walked past and went, that's some beard you got there, mate, and just carried on. He was visiting, he was health and safety, he wasn't even working in the place, but he still had to comment on it.
He was probably checking the beard for health and safety reasons.
He's just checking it for marvellousness and lustrousness. He's getting beard oil for Christmas, but I don't know where to get him. Answers to at We're Not Wizards on Twitter. It is always very, very good to catch up with you. It's always good fun. And as I say, last time we spoke, you're in the middle of the campaign. This time you're on the other side of the campaign looking forward, so that's always very, very fantastic. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, and we are grateful for every single one of you that does, you can find us on various places on the interweb nets, which isn't a word, but we don't care. You can find us on Twitter, We're Not Wizards, Facebook, We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Instagram, We're Not Wizards. We're on YouTube at We're Not Wizards. If you like what you hear and you want to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be very, very nice and tasty indeed. Remember, don't give us a 10 because that'll make us big-headed, and don't leave us a 1 because that'll make us cry. Give us 5 because that's average, and we are very, very average indeed. And joining us in our averageness is the rather average Frank West with his rather amazing games that he's refusing to tell us about. So. But it is only 2 more things to do. And the first thing, as always, is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Frank?
I've been meaning to talk to you about this, but, I think this is the time. We're definitely not wizards. Totally not wizards.
Absolutely fantastic. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Frank. Say goodbye, Frank, you scallywag.
Goodbye, Frank, you scallywag.
And it's a goodbye from us. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and these boxes from City of Kings may come falling down, but they're going to be replaced with Rising Blades, which you should keep an eye on, because if it's anything like the last Juggernaut that Mr. West produced, it's going to be something rather magical and fighty indeed. But until the next time, my good people, thank you for listening, and we shall speak again very, very soon. But as I say, until the next time, goodbye. Say goodbye, Frank.
Goodbye.
Bye.